Okay, I'm not gonna cap. Raw after Clash in Italy was solid. This was a solid Raw. I'm seeing videos from other creators saying it put him to sleep and stuff like that. I ain't gonna even lie. C-Jax, he clowns on it. He clowned on it today saying that he almost fell asleep and stuff. But in his actual review, he wasn't, bashing the show too much. He's had some gripes with Triple H, which we all have our gripes with Triple H because Triple H is doing a horrible job. But this Raw wasn't too bad. This Raw was honestly this Raw, if they added 2 more matches, could have been PLE worthy. I'm not lying. And when I say PLE worthy, I'm not talking about 10 out of 10 PLE type, scenario. This Raw wasn't much better than Clash in Italy, honestly. It wasn't. If we being honest, Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker was better than Roman versus Fatu. It really was. It really was. Jacob Fatu and Roman walked around the arena for 10 minutes. But I'm going to try to go segment by segment, but we going to paraphrase a lot of this because we don't want to relive this Raw. So, in the beginning, of Raw, they went straight to the ceremony. They went straight to the acknowledge me ceremony. And we kind of thought Jacob might have not been going for it, but all in all, Jacob acknowledged Roman Reigns. We're going to skip all the fluff and all the other little stuff that was said, but Jacob says he's a man of his word. Boom. He acknowledged Roman Reigns as the tribal chief. Now, what does this establish? Okay, this established, you got the Usos, you got Jacob. It seems like Roman might actually have, a worser. Well, I don't want to say he has a more harder to deal with bloodline than what he had before. And also, I'm going to skip to this point. There was another backstage segment where Roman gave Jey Uso the mission. He said, go get Cody's title. Pretty much. He said, we need 2 of them. Go win that King of the Ring. And that brings us to the next segment. And I ain't going to even I'm going to just say match. Whatever hype thing. So yeah, Obafemi, Penta, Carmelo Hayes, Solo Sikoa in a fatal 4-way for the first round of the King of the Ring tournament. Now, this match was fun and it was a banger. I don't know who started that word banger, but we just gonna use it. I think it was whatever that dude. Oh God, I forgot. A commentator on SmackDown. I'm drawing a blank, but this match was good, and it didn't need any blood. It didn't need hardcore stuff. This was a match that kept everyone's attention. Oba dominated the match, but by Solo having Talatanga to kind of interfere, and this is what I like. It's a fatal 4-way, so it's no DQ. And they used that. So Solo and Talatanga, they kind of, teamed up on Oba to kind of put him away. But you really can't put Oba away. You could only, like, I'm going to say, distract him, maybe knock him down. Then you got a few seconds before he coming back. But Penta got his stuff in. Carmelo Hayes got his stuff in. Solo got his stuff. Like, everybody was able to get their stuff in. And the match was still fun. Oba put old boy, he didn't put him through the table. He, like, smashed him on the table. Talatanga, he slapped Carmelo Hayes, and I know he felt that one. And everyone, this is weird. Everyone walked away better from this match. This is going to be a match, I'm not going to say people remember for all time, but they're going to remember this match at least for the rest of the summer. Raw usually don't do that. You don't really remember stuff from Raw matches, but this was good. After Oba won, he got on the mic, and he was basically saying how him and Brock Lesnar gonna meet again. They all 1 for 1. We thinking that he means they're gonna meet again at SummerSlam. I'm not sure how that's gonna work out, because Oba would have to lose the King of the Ring to actually fight Brock. Unless that mystery opponent, Adam Pearce is talking about is Brock, and Brock beats Roman, for some kind of title or something, but we know that's not happening. But I always say Oba needs to win the King of the Ring. So when Oba said that, it kind of threw a monkey wrench into what I was thinking about. Oba winning, and I'm gonna make another video on this, but I thought maybe they're supercharging the Bloodline because Oba's gonna fight Roman at SummerSlam. That's what I was thinking, but you never know. Now I'm actually not sure. But Oba wins this match. Next, you have the Sol Ruka. She did a little promo. I don't know. I'm not going to judge Sol Ruka too much. This is her first time. She's on the main card. She got room to improve. Just like I didn't like Lyra Valkyria when she first came. Did not like Lyra. I barely still like Lyra, but Lyra could go in the ring. Maybe once we get this Sol Ruka for a couple of years, maybe she'll grow on us. She still got to prove herself. I hate this. I want to be a fighting champion. Like, stop giving that line to every face. Like, please stop. Like, find something else to say. She can be a fighting champion without telling people she's going to be a fighting champion. And normally when they call themselves a fighting champion, that means they have one defense every month. So we're moving on from that. The Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee match versus Ethan Page and Rusev, that was actually a good match. This match actually reminded me of that 06-07 Rey Mysterio, sorta. Just the way they put the matches together. Like, you can clearly see. I think Rey Mysterio probably called this match. Like, it's a Rey Mysterio vibe. Like, man, it's gonna be sad to see Rey Mysterio. Like, Rey Mysterio still being able to do this stuff in the ring is actually a blessing. Rey Mysterio been wrestling since like 88, 89 on like on some mainstream stuff. and he can still go. He had injuries and all kind of stuff, and he's still out here. You know, he might not be running at his 100% best when he was in his prime, but he ain't too far from it. You know, Dragon Lee, you know, he had his prime. You know, Penta, Ray Phoenix, you know, they doing some crazy stuff, but Rey Mysterio is still keeping up with them. You know, Rey Mysterio and them got the win. I guess they trying to save Penta and Rey Mysterio for SummerSlam. You know, that'll definitely make me check out SummerSlam. You know, next was this fatal 4-way. Roxanne Perez, Io Sky, Julia, and Lash Legend. This is what Raw. This is the type of matches we need to have on Raw. The reason this match was good was because, you know, it was different. You know, this is, you know, what Raw matches supposed to be. Like, they can give us these type of matches on the regular. They got so many women wrestlers that, you know, they all good. You know, they can literally give us this type of match a lot. Do it more. Like, that's it. You know, there wasn't really a story being told here, but a qualifying position at the Queen of the Ring was, you know, promise. I wouldn't even say promise to the winner. You just ranked up. You know, you got your spot. Now, Io Sky, of course, is the favorite. Lash Legend, just being the big woman out of the group. I kind of wish Lash or Julia would have won. You know, you got Io Sky winning. It's like, I kind of can see why Io Sky won, because she's the favorite out of everybody. But in reality, Io Sky didn't need the win. You know, I think Io Sky is cemented as a great. You know, she had her match with Asuka, but, you know, Io Sky really didn't need this. I would have preferred Io Sky to either win the Rumble or win that Elimination Chamber. You know, Queen of the Ring, you give that to a up-and-coming person. You know, you gotta give that to an up-and-coming person. You know, you could give it to somebody that's been cemented, but you gotta have a banging story, you know, to go with it. But I would have preferred Roxanne, Julia, or Lash to win it. Really, any one of them. I would prefer Julia or Roxanne. Really would have rather preferred Julia or Roxanne to win that, because, you know, Roxanne is getting matches because she's with the Judgment Day. And this is another thing that's stupid. You know, why is Liv Morgan in the brackets? Like, man, they have to be using ChatGPT. There's no way Liv Morgan. Well, there's no way y'all put Liv Morgan in the Queen of the Ring tournament knowing that she's the women's world heavyweight champion. You know, that's actually such a disrespectful move. You know, that's just disrespectful when you have a roster full of women. Why is Liv Morgan in the Queen of the Ring tournament? There's too many you could have put there. Hey, you could have put Jada Parker you know, in that spot. Even if you was just gonna let her lose, you could have let people on Raw saw her. Like, I don't know what's creative problem. You know, it's just dumb, but I guess shout out to Io Sky for winning again, which we know Io Sky not winning Queen of the Ring. Like, we know she's not winning, but you know, you can't tell WWE anything. Then, you know, the last match of the night, Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker. Now, I'm gonna be honest, like, I'm not gonna say this match was a 10 out of 10, but this match was definitely, I'll give it a 8 out of 10. You know, this was a PLE type match. And I mean modern day PLE type match. You know, this could have been at Clash in Italy. I guess they saved it for Raw. And look, I'm not mad at that. Raw went, like I said, Raw went hard tonight. You know, everything that came into this match, this was PLE worthy. You know, you had a lot of false finishes. You know, Seth and Braun, you know, and this is just my little critique. You know, they both have ring awareness. But some stuff you don't have to go back and do. Just like Seth took the title, put it on his waist, Braun spears him, but he actually hits the title, you know, like he injured himself from the title. Well, why not get the 3 off that? You know, why Braun, you know, he's knocked out because he speared himself and hit the title. Well, he didn't spear himself. He speared Seth, but his head hit the title, and he was knocked out for about 5 seconds. And then he kind of just gets up to get curb stomped. You know, why not just pin? Like, you know, it's just that little things like that, you know, where we try to do our finisher and get the pin. And another thing I don't like, okay, you're doing all of these finishers and you're not getting a 3 count. But on the other hand, I like the way Seth, you know, he rolled out the ring. A lot of wrestlers need to utilize that. When I can get the 3 count, instead of kicking out of everything, roll out the ring. And now what you see, what Rhea and Jay did, what Gunther and Cody did, and now Seth and Braun did, put their foot on the rope. You know, they're kind of wearing it out, but they weren't wearing it out for a while. It's just surprisingly that all 3 of them decide to do it within 24 hours. You know, I don't know why they're doing that, but it's a perfect way to stop the count. You know, they should have been done this. You know, I like that they're using it because it saves a kick out. You know, it makes your wrestler have more ring awareness. You know, that's the only reason why I'm giving this a 8 out of 10. You know, other than that, you know, I'm giving this Raw a 8 out of 10. You know, and they had other little segments with, you know, LA Knight and stuff like that. But I'm not going over all of that. You know, I'm going to give Raw, with the matches and the little segments that they had, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and say that this Raw was an 8 out of 10. You know, this Raw was better than Mania Night 1. You know, everything on this card was better than Cody and Gunther. You know, and they also teased that too. They teased Roman versus... I don't even know. I wouldn't call it Roman versus Cody, but Cody and Roman has some tension now. So, are they going to redo that whole bloodline nonsense versus Cody again? Nah, like, don't do that. Don't mess with the greatness y'all had and try to do that again. Also, I'm hearing they're setting up Roman versus Seth. Well, you can set up Roman versus Seth, but you know, I'm not sure how Seth would even stop, you know, Roman with his new bloodline. You know, I don't know how they're gonna do that. You know, Seth doesn't have the vision. You know, I can see if it was Oba versus Roman. You know, then you would need a bloodline, but Roman by himself could probably beat Seth. You know, but on the other hand, he can't. I mean, Seth is good, but hey, if he got Jimmy and Jay and Seth by himself, you know, that's Roman all the time, all the way. You know, so I don't know what they're going to do. You know, y'all let me know in the comment section. Where's Drew McIntyre and where's CM Punk? You know, KO just posted he misses wrestling. You know, he should have just shut up, not said anything, and returned. But no, he had to say something. He had to be online saying something. But y'all let me know in the comment section what y'all rate this Raw.